In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Afternoon, everyone. Nestor Lecanto here, and welcome to another edition of In Full Zoom. And I'm pleased to welcome two folks that are involved with the CNMI cannabis industry in the CNMI, of course. And they're going to announce their first licensee. Joining us today is Nadine De Leon Guerrero. She is the chairperson of the CNMI Cannabis Commission. And the first licensee is Mr. Victor Cabrera. Congratulations, Vic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me start with you, Nadine. Can you just give us a little bit of background history to the legislation, how it all got started for the cannabis industry in the CNMI?
Sure. I'd be happy to. In 2018, September 21st, actually, 2018 was when we first legalized, making the CNMI the first U.S. territory to do so by means of legislation. But what happened like less than a month later was U2 hit. So it kind of put everything in a standstill. At the time I was working for Homeland Security, and I remember that because we had to respond to one of the biggest disasters we've had in recent history. So it wasn't until almost a year later, in August 2019, that Public Law 21-05 was passed in the legislature, which enabled the commission to be a full-fledged commission. And that's when we got appointed, and we got sworn in September 12th of 2019. And by statute, we had 180 days to complete the rules and regulations, which is 6 months essentially. And we were able to do that actually down to the very last day. It was March 10, when we actually promulgated our rules and regulations. What we didn't know then was 3 days later, our government was going to be shut down because of COVID. So from March until August, which was when we actually opened our doors to begin intake of applications, was when we first started having the opportunity open for the CNMI. And not just the CNMI, actually, we had also interested investors outside of the CNMI that were trying to get in the door despite COVID. So we were hustling, trying to get everybody's information in and trying to get them still be on board, because we knew that it was going to take some time for tourism to be stood up, just because of the current situation. Yeah, so we were in dire need of a new industry to come into the CNMI, and we knew the important role that we played. And so we kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally, in March of this year, we were able to get our first licensee, which is Mr. Victor Cabrera, under the business name of Slider Mariana. So I'm so happy for him.
Yeah. Before we get into the weeds, so to speak, of the regulations, let me turn to Vic now and ask him, so what was your reaction when you became the first licensee, and how did it all get started for you and your family? What brought you to that decision that, yeah, I want to be the licensed cannabis industry businessman?
All right, thanks, Nestor. It's actually kind of funny because prior to getting the notification that they were going to issue the license, man, I was on their case like on a weekly basis. I was emailing them saying, hey, man, I've got power bills that are coming in. I need this rolling. And so I was always on their case, and I know they kind of probably got just a little bit frustrated with me, but it was very, very exciting when I finally did get that inspection and I passed, and then they scheduled for the actual license signing. I was very, very excited. It felt like a kid in Christmas again, you know what I mean? Waiting so long for something I consider to be very special for the project that I've been working on. We've been working on this project for about 7 months. From the moment the commission issued the notice in the newspaper back in August that they're open and they're ready to accept license applications and all of that. So it's been a long time coming. I've been very patient And I know the commission and the acting director and the director, they've been patient with me. So it's all together, it's just come together, and it's an awesome feeling right now. You know, I'm just excited to get started. I look forward to working closely with the board to further develop any criteria necessary in order to create regulations that will help better regulate the industry, as well as protect the growers, you know, the retailers, the lounge owners. It's still going to be a work in progress the way I see it, and I'm looking forward to it. It's been a long time. This is the longest 7 months of my life, so it's I'm very excited. I'm very excited. Yes.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises Inc.
Right, and Nadine, tell us a little bit about the regulations. What are some of the big provisions of that?
Yeah, sure. So our law, Public Law 20-66 and 2105, is largely based on Oregon's. So a lot of our regulations are also based off of Oregon, just to make it consistent with each other so that there's not too much of a variation. So far, and what's very interesting is in the CNMI, and I think how it differs from Guam, is we allow for vertical integration. And I think maybe that's one of the biggest differences that we have with Guam. I think with Guam, you're only allowed to have one license, yeah. But here you can have a license from beginning to end. As anything else in particular, I think where it really differs is the schedule fee. And the schedule fee was set by statute, and it was really designed to allow for the local entrepreneurs to jump on board, to be able to afford having a license so that they too could have a chance in the industry. Another thing that's really significant, I think, with and it's not so much the regulations, it's also by law that each principal owner of each license has to have been residing on the island of Saipan or in the CNMI really for at least 5 years. So it allows for the local market to grow with local business owners. And I think that is very key in really producing a grassroots type of industry where we allow our local people to flourish and allow for longevity so that they have a vested interest because they are from here. So I think I can answer any specific questions, but I think those are the most significant ones that are kind of set us apart from other jurisdictions.
Yeah, let me ask both of you, there was a little bit of pushback on Guam initially for, the cannabis industry. So let me ask you, Vic and Nadine. Vic first. What was the community's reception to the idea of starting up the cannabis industry in the CNMI?
Well, from my point of view, it was well received. And as you would see from the previous news broadcast when it was underway, everybody was saying, it's been a long time coming. So they've anticipated having it legalized locally for a while now, and I know that there was a lot of work that was put into it by several congressmen and senators here on island. So I think the people were see the industry finally be legalized and set up here on island.
Yes. What's been the community reaction, even prior to the actual awarding of the license?
Yeah, so I think for the most part, majority is on board with this passing, but I cannot say that it's 100%. We still have our Manamku that's very much against this, and it's just a cultural. I guess it's like an annex now, yeah, where you have the younger generation pushing for it, and the younger generation that's not necessarily keen to believing that this is good for you. And I think a lot of it is cultural upbringing, just the education, and really, I don't want to say propaganda because it's really more so, I think, cultural beliefs. But I think it's slowly coming to a point where I think they're starting to accept it. And I think they're starting to believe that this really is a good thing for us, especially on the medicinal side. Because pharmaceutical drugs is not necessarily the only way to cure ailments now. Now people are buying more into natural medicine, and that also includes cannabis. And you don't necessarily have to smoke it. You can have the leaves and you can boil it, kind of thing, and drink it, which is really more in tune with our elders and how they find medicinal purposes acceptable. So I think the older generation is coming around to it, not quite yet. And I also think that those that are in education are also a little bit skeptical, not because it's a bad thing, but I think it really has to depend on educational outreach and how it's presented to the younger children that don't know so much about cannabis. And, hopefully they don't just see their uncle doing it and think it's okay, which, by the way, is against the law to be smoking in the presence of a minor with a very hefty fine. But I think it's coming around. It's coming around to be more of the majority accepting it. And you bring that up too, because of when you ask that question, I think of tourism, right? I know there's major pushback with the tourism industry in Guam, and rightfully so. I think we have to listen to our liaison out there in Asia that is on the ground and listening to the tourist market, and the people that are on the ground doing the investment side for tourism, at least in the CNMI. And so I think even our visitors authority, they're not in a position to promote the use of cannabis with our partners in Asia. But I think they're just taking it in a neutral stance where if they choose to do it, that is their prerogative. If they don't, they don't. But we're not one to be pro-cannabis or anti. So I don't think the pushback is as great in the CNMI as it is in Guam. But I think there are different types of industries that are going to develop because of this.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
I'm going to ask Vic, what are some of the challenges that you're facing, such as maintaining, product quality, that sort of thing? What are the problems that or challenges you anticipate farming the product?
Well, I am an indoor grow setup, so I have a more of a controlled environment for my plants. Problems I anticipate having are, if there should be inspections and inspectors come in and by chance they happen to have an aphid on their arm that would transfer over to one of my plants, then I'll have to deal with an infestation, a bug infestation. That's one of my biggest concerns right now, is any kind of bug infestation or any kind of fungal infestation. As a farmer, I've been always weary of these two things. They're one of my biggest enemies, so being on top of it and ensuring that the environment is controlled and cleaned at all times possible is the only way I foresee getting over that situation, should it occur. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be some other challenges that I might have to face in the future. I was just thinking about it last night, that all it would take is a power outage that would last 6 hours, and that will completely throw off my grow phase. So there's a lot of things that I need to start preparing for, or I've already tried to prepare for. But I think there's going to be things that just pop out of nowhere, and I will have to deal with at that time when it arises. Yeah.
Sure, like any other business startup, there's going to be unforeseen challenges that arise that you'll need to deal with. But how about from a marketing standpoint? You believe the CNMI there contribute that? Any problems with regard to that sort of thing?
So the question was in regards to marketing the product?
Yes.
Was that the question? Yeah. Okay. Well, I
Yes.
don't.
Yes. Sorry.
I don't really see it being too difficult. I do know as a grower, I'm only focusing on getting my product to the retailers. I can assist the retailers in marketing my product through social media, product placement, product promotion, but again, in accordance with the Commission's rules and regulations on advertising and marketing. As long as I abide by those guidelines, I think it'll be pretty easy. Again, for the most part, I think the marketing aspect is going to really depend on the retailers and how I can support the retailers to do that.
Maybe let me just ask you, you talked a little bit about, the potential for the growth of this industry and how, there's been pushback from the tourism industry in Guam, but there's others who have said that, it may be a benefit to tourism in the sense that, there will be tourists arriving to the islands to buy or use marijuana in Guam or the CNMI because it is banned in their country. So do you see that as a potential for the growth of the industry?
Well, I think we're very cognizant of the fact that it's still very much taboo in Asia. It's going down to there's the possibility of random testing at the airport once they land, and so if I were in that position, I too would be very hesitant to partake in the industry. But as far as using, only time will tell. We don't know how they're going to react. We don't know if this is going to boost the economy. I just know that there are a bunch of Asian tourists that I've heard through, whether it be through investors or potential investors that are really wanting to build a full-blown operation here. And so I think it would take some kind of convincing into the investor putting out so much of their resources to allow for that operation to grow if they didn't think it would succeed. So I'm confident that they are making the right decision. And based on how they're running their operations, I feel that only time will tell. I can't say a complete no, because I do hear a lot of tourists wanting to come to try it out. So we shall see. And when we get there, we'll know how to adjust and roll with the punches. So
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
And finally, just let me get a final word from each of you on what your advice would be to the Guam Cannabis Commission and would-be cannabis growers in Guam. Let me start with you, Vic.
Okay. Well, I'd like to wish everybody in Guam nothing but success with the cannabis industry. I would highly encourage everybody locally to get involved if they can. Start making plans, start trying to find out what it would take to get into the industry itself, and make a very strong, positive presence as locals there. And I'm not anti foreign investment coming in or outer investments coming in and opening up corporations It's just if we can have our people get their foot in the door and get planted into the ground, all kinds of pun intended. But get our people to be a part of it. Get the locals in Guam to be a big part, have a strong presence in the industry, and ensure their position before opening up to everybody else around the world. Yeah. So good luck to everybody in Guam, to all the growers, to all the retailers, and everybody that's going to get involved.
Literally and figuratively, a homegrown industry. And finally, Nadine, what's your thoughts? What's your recommendations for the Guam industry?
Yeah, sure. I mean, coming from a regulatory standpoint, I'd like to encourage all of those that are in the industry who are thinking of not coming into the light to please step into compliance. There's a lot of skepticism with the amount of investment that's going to be poured into it, but I really think in the end, it's worth getting into. This wouldn't have become a reality if those that are in the position to make these kinds of privileges available for the community, if they didn't think it was going to work. And that's our approach. Our approach is to walk people into compliance. Because of our limited resources, we do understand that there is quite a lack in education. And really that's our focus right now. Our focus is to try and make it so that we are all compliant, so that everybody can be successful and that everybody can get a piece of the pie, so to speak. If you're in the illicit market and planning to stay in there, the amount of the repercussions and the amount of fees, at least with the CNMI, it's just not worth it. It's not worth to bring attention to your hard work because you didn't want to pay the fee. So that's why I commend people like Victor for doing the right thing, really. And honestly, since he's gotten licensed, the amount of applications that have come in because of the kind of person that Victor is. Victor is a really respectable member of our community, if you guys don't know. So just the fact that he is the first licensee and seeing his credibility and that he is the face of the cannabis commercial side right now, it's encouraging a lot of locals to come into the light and really contribute, be a contributing member to the newest industry. Now is the time. Don't wait too long where you won't have a seat at the table, because who knows, maybe down the road we may have to limit the licenses. We don't know yet. We're making it a free market right now, but once you're in, you're in. And as long as you stay compliant with the regulations, there's no reason to not have you be a part of that success anymore. So be compliant, step into the light, be part of the grassroots movement the right way.
All right. Thank you very much. Nadine De Leon Guerrero is the chairperson of the CNMI Cannabis Commission, and Victor Cabrera is the first licensee. Congratulations. And thank you both for being on In Full Zoom.
Thank you, Nestor. The honor's all ours.
I'm Nestor Lecanto. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next week on In Full Zoom. Take care.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.